Hello and welcome to the live stream. So we're going to be talking all about Tableau today. So just to give you a quick run through of what we're going to be doing. So we're going to start off where Heather, the resident for this lecture, Tableau expert, is going to review some LinkedIn submitted work. So we've got some interesting submissions, and I don't know if Truist all of a sudden circulated this challenge internally, but we have the VP of Analytics who actually took on the challenge. And I think maybe someone either in his team or in his department. We've got some awesome visualizations that we're going to review. Then we're going to jump into uncovering how to analyze this data within Tableau, pull in some students. And I forgot last week that we did the email challenge, and I broke the students into two teams, and they competed on who would get the highest click-through and open rate. So we've got the results for that, and I totally missed it last episode, so we're going to finish out the episode with that. But let's pull on our expert in Tableau. Heather, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounded great. Sounds really good.
Yeah.
And we've got a ton of people in the live chat. So I think so Gerson, hello. I think Abe was here well before. So Abe's one of our super fans. And then I think Naveed he did an excellent submission, and we're about to pull up the hashtag GC Analytics tag.
Okay.
And there's more people than I can get to, but if you guys are tuning on the live chat, thank you so much for tuning in. But let's hop over. I can just share my screen.
Okay.
And okay, so here we go. So Alex Moy, I'm so excited that we get to see Alex, who I can just pull up his profile right fast. So Alex is here local, and he's actually been on the podcast before. Mm-hmm. So he is oh man, my internet is dragging right now. He is the VP over at Truist, and he does analytics work. Let's see what his specific title is. Oh, wow. So VP of Data and Analytics. So I'm super excited to see what he came up with. But all right. So Heather, what do you think of this? Do you have any, can you see it first of all?
I can see it. I would say, well, is making good use of, sort of putting the hashtag in the title. And I know they're using parameters. One suggestion I might have is to move the more colorful elements to the top. So I would take that chart at the top, the table, which is pretty plain, and I would probably move it to the bottom.
Okay.
As reference material, or make the numbers really big. One rule that I follow is that if things are being presented, people might only have 3 minutes to look at it. So it's a lot to look at for 3 minutes, but maybe the audience is more of an analytical person who will be using the parameters to see how things change and the goals. And
yeah. Well, I guess my feedback on it would be, why don't we just turn that into the KPI cards?
Yeah.
So and also too, what's cool about, and okay, Heather, I've got a gripe with Tableau actually. Why don't they have a Tableau in Power BI? I can just click a card for a visualization, but in Tableau I have to manually create it myself.
Yes.
So basically, I create a table with one data point, and then I change the label to be a little bit bigger, and I often turn it blue just so it's different.
Yeah, and so there's a concept in Power BI and in Einstein Analytics with Salesforce of a widget. And a widget is a pie chart or a bar chart, and you bring that into your view and you connect it to your data. Tableau definitely lets you run wild, lets you, here's your X and your Y axis, do what you like. So Tableau will require you to take more steps to create a visualization. But because you can create each step, you have more control over how things look. So.
Okay. So that kind of gets back to I get this question all the time, and I've kind of got almost like an elevator pitch answer. So my understanding of the difference between Power BI and Tableau, which are the two data viz platforms that we're covering in this course is Tableau is a data visualization software with data modeling tacked on. Power BI is the opposite. It's more of a data modeling tool with some like sprinkled in visualization functionality.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Also, when, Tableau is also very popular with journalists and artists.
Oh, interesting.
If you pull any magazine and it's got some chart in it, the journalist might have used Tableau. Also, I've seen some people, if you follow the Tableau community, there are people who are called information designers who do things like create an illustration on biomass for a children's textbook, right?
Oh, that's
So
fascinating.
people have a slightly different audience, but yeah, I agree. Tableau was a visualization, and then it backed into the data. Power BI, Microsoft, product starts with the data and then lets you sort of add charts.
The flip side. What's interesting is, speaking of kind of the broader Tableau community, Alex Moy and I hosted an event out in Winston-Salem one time for the Tableau user group. So I don't know if you know this, but I was a Tableau user group leader for 2 years in Greensboro a few years back. So it's cool to see kind of like the relationships that you build. How, I mean, he saw this probably yesterday and just jumped on it and was like, he went into the Discord server, which everybody, if you're watching and you haven't participated, there's a link in the description of this video for our Discord server where you can get access to the raw data. But now let's head over to Naveed's, and we'll just cover the two truest. Also, if you guys want, like they wrote like a novella on top of this, both Alex and Naveed, which is awesome. And I feel like I almost feel guilty because I'm like outsourcing the learning here. So I get to hear a true Tableau expert you said that we had a call yesterday. And you said Tableau has been the first program I opened and the last program I closed for like 5 years now?
Yeah, like 7 years. Yeah.
So you're like way deeper in Tableau than I am. So I'm like just swimming in the kiddie pool with my floaties on, where you're like doing swan dives in the deep end.
I'm trying.
But for those of you who are watching on the live stream, just search in the LinkedIn search bar #GC Analytics, and you can see. I mean, Alex broke down how he cleaned up the data, the calculations, designing the dashboard, how he built the views, how he assembled it, and then he has like a whole detailed breakdown of the insights. Which, I mean, I think this is cool because this is the first time we've like really kind of just done a data drop. It's like whoever wants to participate. Yeah. Also, Heather, I saw your videos. So in the Discord server, you did like a whole 4-video series of like how you analyzed it.
I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is so cool. All right, so let's see what Naveed came up with, which it's a very different approach. So what do you think of this one?
Now compared to what Alex did, what we see here, this is more of that slide business presentation look, which Tableau is very good at. The one thing that I would really caution anyone listening about is your background color. So the background color is kind of close in tone to the darker blue bars. And then you have legends, you have your the value on your bars again is in those two colors of blue. And not all screens represent all colors the same way. You as an analyst might fall in love with these two colors of blue, but what if someone's viewing it on their phone, on a laptop, on a big monitor? I would have definitely done something different with that background color because I think it could cause problems in the future. And the problem would be that people wouldn't be able to understand the numbers just because of a color choice. So I would probably bring it down to white. Personal preference, but that's probably what I would do. Also, people might be printing your analysis.
What?
They might. I know. It can happen. People will print them out and write on them and send them back. So having all of the colors that could problem. Yeah. But it looks good. Like he's highlighting that orange, you know, like this is the number I want you to see, this orange number.
Yeah, no, I think that the contrast, like this is almost, what do you call that from like a data visualization theory perspective? It is, it's like oh man, I'm totally blanking on this. It's like it goes beyond a threshold and then all of a sudden it flashes red. It's like a radar theory.
Like an alert, yeah.
An alert, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Because all the most important data points, which I think from a visual standpoint, this is really cool because we have all the KPIs in orange, the top most important bar in orange, and then Luke, who is, it's interesting because so Luke is, we advertise, I guess to give everyone watching context on this data source, we've had a bunch of YouTubers on our podcast, the How to Get an Analytics Job podcast. And what we're doing is just buying those 5 second skippable ads in front of our fringe panels to see who had the best return.
Yeah.
Which I've actually got a quick little slide deck.
And you know, just really quick, someone put it in the chat. It's preattentive processing. That's what we were looking for. Yeah.
So, I mean, Naveed, you went super, super hard and deep into like, it's like engineering and then visualization best practice and then the business skill. So I just wanted to jump into this slide deck really fast to show kind of my thought process as the business owner in this situation. So I'm essentially, it's weird because I'm kind of wearing the analyst and the executive's hat in the situation. So we have the platform, and the kind of the underlying business thought that I had is how deeply can we discount our product? So we're selling 2 case study courses for $200 pop. So and what's really cool is that we have Dina in the chat, and she asked, she wanted to build a model predicting like the sales from the amount of clicks we got. Unfortunately, this did not convert to any, like we had 360 clicks and 0 sales. So what that tells me is that we figured out the top of the sales funnel, but the bottom of the sales funnel, we're just not quite converting. What the lever or the mechanism I can pull is price to make people buy. I think that unfortunately, the world we live in, selling online courses, especially Udemy, has just commoditized and slashed the profitability per sale. So let's walk through this kind of exercise of how deeply can we get it before we're actually in the red. So, and we're assuming that people are going to come through these ad channels. So we can assume a 2% conversion rate, which is something that Dina actually brought up in her hashtag GC Analytics post, which was, you guys are paying attention. I'm so thrilled. Like they're actually listening. So our first preliminary ads, we just kind of threw out wildly. It's just like, here's $100. Google, take this and try to get us some clicks. Unfortunately, that was a really bad strategy because we turned in that like, Heather, I don't know if you've ever heard of smart ads, but it uses AI to like, I guess the smart ads are not quite smart yet. They're still in the early, they're like kindergarten smart. But what we then did is looked at some of our YouTube demographics of who's consuming our content and then put parameters on that. So like males between the age 25 and 35 is really our target. So we threw that in there and then put it on our friend's YouTube channel and got that down to $1 per click. So my question is, and Heather, I guess we could throw this to the chat or the students. If you guys want to participate, I could pull one of you guys into the chat, although you guys have been really shy. So what is the break even point if it's $1 per click, a 2% conversion rate? Anybody in the chat? Heather, do you have any thoughts on that? Oh, Heather, I think you're muted.
Muted, yep. So, an airplane went by. So you've already invested $100?
So I think we invested more than that on the preliminary ads. So I'm not necessarily concerned with like, what are we investing or what I'm seeing the first like month to 3 months of ads. It's just a sunk cost. Like it's going to take us some time to figure out, all right, these channels are working. This is a demographic that's actually buying. These are the different channels we should be using. So what I'm really looking at is like, what is that threshold of break even with like what we've learned? So the key points is we're assuming that 2% of people convert. So that means that on average, it takes us 50 clicks before we get a purchase.
Right.
And that costs us $1. I mean, it's really kindergarten math.
So it's costing you $1. Hold on. I can't do math without a spreadsheet.
All right. Anybody in the chat? Any students?
Yeah, have someone in the go down.
So students you can send me a note in the private chat. Because I could just pull one of you guys in. William, I see you writing. Have you figured it out? No? Hold on.
Yeah. I'm working on it.
I mean, okay.
So your conversion rate is
Conversion rate is 2%. It costs $1 to get a click.
Oh, $1 per click.
I mean, come on. I'm giving you it takes, so a 2%, another way of saying a 2%, what?
Did I say it right? 200? No.
To be fair, everyone who's watching, Heather, I'm putting you totally on the spot. William, what have you come up with?
I'm sorry, what? I can't. You're not that loud in my volume.
Heather, am I coming really through really quiet?
I think you're coming in okay.
Okay. William, do you have headphones maybe?
I did not.
Okay.
So
right. Abe's closer, 47.
47, yeah.
No, that would be in the red, unfortunately. I mean, think about it. So,
well, if your conversion rate is 2%,
2%,
in order to get one click, converted, to a paying customer, you need to have at least 50 clicks. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
And how much is it per click?
Per click, it's $1 per click.
Right. So it's here. I'm just gonna pull in the slide.
Okay.
It's $50.
Okay.
That is our lowest. So right now we're selling at $200, but we could, in theory, from a business standpoint, sell it at a quarter discount and still break even.
Okay.
So that's, yeah. So, I mean, this is all just like further context of how I'm looking at this data. But what we can do is leverage Tableau to look at the data source to uncover, all right, how can we get it even lower than $1 potentially? And this is, Heather, where I think you're going to come into play here. Mm-hmm. So do you want to share your screen and pull up your Tableau workbook?
Yeah. So you could use parameters to display that. Okay. So all right. So I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Yeah. And I'll pull it in.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Wow, look at that. It's like
okay. So this is what I have here.
Okay.
So it's $1 per click.
Mm-hmm.
The conversion rate is 2%. We need, in order to get one sale, we need at least 50 clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got that by just multiplied this percentage times the total clicks to get one.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. And then the total dollars here is just the total clicks multiplied by the $1.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting just from like this is a real business use case. And it's funny because I swim in the kiddie pool in terms of like math. I'm more of like a business strategist. But and also Heather, feel free to like show them what you showed me yesterday of like how you see a new data set, process it, because you caught on some data quality errors that I initially missed.
Yeah, so this is a recap from the video, but the data source was an Excel spreadsheet that had a header row right? So our original data, if I uncheck this cleaned, had these rows at the top, managed placement report and a date. So I just clicked use the data interpreter and it cleaned that up. And there was also at the bottom, there were some totals. And if you would have kept the totals in that data, you would have risked tripling your sums.
Right. Can we pause here and talk about why that is so hazardous to you as an analyst?
Yeah, let me open. I'm just going to open up a brand new.
Okay.
New. I'm using Tableau Public, which is the free product. So sometimes it's not maintained as well. So I'm going to connect to the Excel file. And here it is, the managed placements report.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing me right here that the top rows are header rows. They're not really part of our data. And down at the bottom, we have 2 rows that are totals. If I move over to the side here, we can see that I have totals in the managed placements, in the impressions and views.
Right. So that is going to completely throw the data off.
That's going to throw the data off. So if I were, let me come back here. I'm going to use the data interpreter to remove these redundant rows at the top. Now I'm just going to sheet 1 and I'm going to throw impressions and views just in the middle here. So now I have this little table, right? 100,000 something and 7,000. And now I'm going to come back to the data pane and I'm going to remove those redundant rows. So those redundant rows, they're in the placement status. So I'm going to add a filter on placement status. Okay. And now I'm going to exclude these 2 totals. Okay. Okay.
Okay. What's interesting is that I recreated this morning this work. I did the opposite. I just included enabled.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now why that might be a mistake because maybe there's going to be a second status that could come up. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I would do it. That's why I did it this way because cancel or edit. Yeah. That's why I did it this way because you might get next week, there might be not enabled.
Right.
You know, so this is one way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a smart, because what you're getting into is systems thinking. So you're thinking about, all right, we could just do an ad hoc analysis, which is just look at this one time, or we can start to design an infrastructure that as the data updates, we can just plop in a new data set on top of that and then just update it. And then it's geared towards a long-term sustainable analysis.
Yes, it is. So, and the other thing I talked about was the view rate, right? So here's the view rate. It's showing up as a 1 because it's a percentage. To alter that, you just look at the number format here and bring it to percentage. Okay. So this is showing a 95% view rate. That's excellent.
I like that.
That's excellent, right?
It's excellent, but it's absolutely wrong. There's no way.
It's excellent, but it's absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And the reason is because it's summing up the view rate. So I'm going to move the impressions and views off of here. Analysis and
wait,
total.
okay. We covered this. I want to pull a student in. Natalie, I'm pulling you in.
Okay.
To talk about, all right, let's talk about aggregating percentages.
Yeah.
So Natalie, do you remember what we talked about in class?
Trying to get the average of a group of numbers.
Right. So you're correct. The there's some weird noise going on right there. So the average is the rec aggregation. Why is that? Can you give? I'm hearing myself.
So you mean, is it the
Here, let me rephrase it. Does it make sense for you to add, okay, let's say that you got a 98 on last test and Devin got a 96. Can we add your two grades together and say that together you guys got 180% on the test?
No, you would need the average of those two.
Right. Right. So yeah, so that's an aggregation issue. And also too, what was interesting is that while you were analyzing the data in Tableau in person in our previous class, you figured out how to change it so it automatically changes the aggregation to average.
Right.
Which I forgot how to do that in Tableau. Well, in the new version of Tableau easily. So Heather, do you want to cover how to do that? I can pull your screen back in.
Yeah. So you want to talk about how to change the aggregation to be an average compared to a sum?
Well, I'm talking about like okay, maybe you can illuminate me on this. Why is it always default to sum?
Yeah, it's just, that's the default aggregation for Tableau. And so let me remove the view rate out and let's talk about views.
Okay.
And I'm going to remove the placement URL. This is giving me the sum.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the default. And maybe I want to change this view to be the average. So you just down click on the arrow. You see where it says sum,
right,
and change it to average. So that has changed this in my view. So I can bring views here, right? So these are the same metric, the same pill. One is an average, the other are the views. So does that make sense to everyone on the call? You just change the aggregation here.
Yeah, I was about to say, so students in the private chat, you guys can type your questions and I'll get a ping about it.
Yeah.
So these we're seeing all the public chats over here in the live stream. But Heather, what my question was is that Natalie figured out how to change the default aggregation from sum to average. So
over here.
So so can you walk me through that?
Yeah. So let's say you have a business case where you always want the aggregation for views to be average, always, no matter what's going on, what I'm putting in here. So click on the down arrow, default properties, aggregation, average.
Okay.
So
default properties.
Yes. And now say, okay, now every time I put views in here, it's going to give me the average. And I know it's aggregating at the average because it's showing me right here.
Okay. So you should probably be a best practice that if you have a percentage to change the default to average.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's interesting is that.
So here's the thing though, this is creating the average of all of these numbers. When you're looking at something like a view rate, so let me just bring out the placement URLs.
Okay.
And the view rate. So I already know this is a rate, so I'm going to set my default property number format to percentage. And here is my view rate. Okay. So if I set this aggregation, it's showing as a sum. And let's say I want this to be the average. So I'm coming here, I'm saying the average, right? Mm-hmm. So this is giving me the average. This number is the average of these numbers here. And if one of these YouTube videos has far more views than another, this still won't be accurate.
Oh.
That makes sense. So let me show you. So here's the placement URL.
All right, so Naveed actually has some commentary. So Naveed is saying, my approach is typically different. I use a calculated column for my measure.
Yes. Yeah.
For example, sum of views divided by sum of impressions.
Yes.
Then set that column, calc, I think that's a typo, calc column as my pill, in my pill as average. Is that?
Yes.
All right, you guys are way more technical than I am. I mean, and Naveed is putting me to shame because I saw that he's got an MBA too. But I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just like, I guess, drifting more into managing things and being like knee deep in data all day.
So here's an example. So we have a sum and it's giving us this number here. But what we want, you want the ratio between these two numbers. So what you can do is new calculation. I think it's views divided by impressions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to format this as a percentage so that we can see the decimals behind it. Okay. Now, what's going on here is this calculation. So this calculation that I just created, it's taking the sum of the impressions, the sum of the views, and then creating the calculation across.
I love your teaching style, by the way.
Thank you.
As a fellow content creator, I'm like, wow, you're visually showing this. You're showing the calculation in the box. Also, too, how have I've been Tableau developing for like 5 years, and I've never left myself notes within.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're like, yeah, comment your equations, and I just have not ever done it. And it's funny because like I'll come back to a project that I worked on 3 years ago and be like, I have no idea, and spend an hour trying to figure out how it all pieces together to where this is so smart.
Yeah, so I always comment the calcs because you come back after a year, maybe you won't remember. You also want to leave breadcrumbs for your colleagues. So here's the calculated view rate, which takes the sum of views, the sum of impressions, because you also have, for example, this row has 14,000 impressions.
Yeah.
So this ratio here has far more weight than the others. And so let's look, we've got the view rate here. How would this look if we change the aggregation to, and where is it? Oh, no, I can't find it. So if we were to change this to be an average, you see this is the average of these numbers above it.
Mm-hmm.
This column is a new calculation based on each row. So if you were to make a business decision based on 6.75 versus 6.9, you might make an incorrect decision.
Interesting. Yeah. This is so nuanced. And also too, I feel bad. We came up with this data challenge before. So the students actually worked on a different data set. So
okay,
we started out with the Udemy review data, which I think they said they liked because it was the first time they saw like a big data set. It's like 5,000 rows, which
yeah.
I mean, I guess like if you're a freshly minted senior in college, that is probably a pretty big data set.
Yeah.
But like this one is interesting because this one, and Alex Moy actually said this in his LinkedIn post, we went the opposite direction with this data set. It's only 22 rows.
Yeah.
So getting data out of that is really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can add calculations to it, right?
Well, and actually I this morning, what I did was I created a lookup table. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into my methodology, which I think we fundamentally think about these problems very different. Like you have such a more methodical, like and I could probably learn. I could probably make use of being more methodical like you are. But this is great. I mean, I'm so impressed. Like, not only are you super talented and experienced, but you also have the knack for explaining it. Like I like how you pulled that up and you were like, this is that and this is that. I'm like, you were good. Yeah,
it's a lot of trial and error, you know, and I'm glad to be able to share this with your students so that you can make, you know, don't make this error.
Yeah, don't be like me.
Don't be like me.
Okay, so did you want to show what, because I know you worked through it and you have some like visualizations.
Yeah.
Do you want to just jump to that, or are there some more kind of like these are great,
These are the
but I'm
tips.
worried that it's like information overload.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with something like a little bit higher level, and maybe we could go back and forth if we want to kind of drill down into a nuance point.
I'm going to close this because something I was trying to do earlier did not work. Okay. Okay. So one thing I did was I created a bar chart for view rates, right? And here it is, and it's super basic. And marketing is a higher view rate than retail. And this bar chart is showing your users the difference based on the size of the bars, right? But as I said earlier, if you're doing a presentation, people might only look at this for 3 minutes. So having this type of subtle difference might not really make the point. So now I've changed this. It's the same bar chart, but I'm encoding it 3 ways. I'm spelling it out in plain text along the top. Here is the difference. They're different colors and they're different sizes. And also for the benefit of viewing it online, I've added this visualization and tooltip. When people see big numbers like this, they often want to know what's behind it. You know, what's behind it? How do I know this is what you're saying it is? So I've added a Vision tooltip so you can see the impressions and the rates. Also gives you a little idea that, you know, for example, Alex the Analyst and Luke, they have higher impressions. So their rates are driving the numbers. And then because this is video content, people might want to say, oh, what was that video? So I've added a dashboard action here. So this is something that definitely I don't think Power BI does. I don't think Excel does either. I've added a dashboard action so that you can just click on this placement URL and the video will open up.
Hello.
Okay, so that is a link to his channel. So okay, so that's the placement where okay.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking like, why don't I've got the actual commercials loaded up into StreamYard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we can link to whatever this URL will display.
Well, I'm saying to make it like I guess more 3-dimensional. Will you flip back to that other visualization? So which one is performing worse?
So which one is performing worse? I would say this one here, How to Power BI. Yes, yeah, it's coming to the channel. We can see the link.
Actually,
channel.
I only have I can show you the marketing video.
Okay.
I have to upload I don't even know if I have the sales promo, but I'm saying right now, what we're looking at right now is the view rate. So what we can do is kind of start to dissect it a little bit and this is something that you can't capture. It's not like how to explain this. So an ad has multiple parts to it. The first thing, and I think the thing that determines the view rate is the hook. So what we can do is I can pull up for example, the marketing promo, and we can, let's talk about why that may or may not be good. So I'll cut to it. I can actually pull it up right now. Yeah. So it's this one. Are you looking for real data to analyze? An actual problem to solve? An experience worth talking about in an interview? Well, in this case study course, you get a real-world problem with a messy data set and a business outcome that's on the line. My name is John David, and I'm the founder of Silvertone Analytics, a boutique consulting agency that focuses on business analytics. I'm also a professor of analytics at Greensboro College. And in 2021, I had the privilege of combining these two worlds. My real-world Greensboro College students got to work with my Silvertone Analytics clientele for the Analytics Minor capstone course at Greensboro College. This case study course is modeled after the lessons, the trials, and the tribulations that my students went through in the Analytics Minor capstone course. My students got to work directly with the president of an organization that is clearing over $150 million in revenue every year. And this case study course keeps the exact same data structures that they worked through in that case study. But I anonymized the data to protect my client's privacy. So are you ready to solve a real-world business use case? Build a killer analytics portfolio, and even learn how to communicate these findings in an interview setting? Well, click the Take This Course button now and join me inside. So that,
Nice.
yeah, oh, thank you. So that relates back to the view rate chart. So what we can piece apart is that, all right, that hook. So the hook was a series of questions. It's like, do you want to work with real data? Do you want to get a new job? Blah, blah, blah. What we can do is look at the specific text and be like, all right, this is the sentiment. They want real data. That they don't have access to real data. And that's one of the major challenges of kind of pivoting to the field is getting access to business data. Like you can get like, I don't know, CDC data or that like cookie cutter, I don't know, high school or college, like Sally has 28 tomatoes.
Yeah.
Billy has 14 potatoes.
You
It's
can
like,
get,
yeah. Though, so what we can start to do is kind of piece apart, but I think I would have to manually create that data set though. I don't think
the
we're gonna
data set of the ad.
right, like dissecting the ad. So we could say like, is it approach 1, approach 2? So approach 1 could
Oh,
be
yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Approach 2 could be, here's Molly. Here's our use case. You know, Molly is now making $10,000 more per year
Right.
because of this. So like what we can do, but that is trickier and kind of a manual process though.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit of a manual process with data. You know, there is, I mean, if you could have your 3 ads and maybe you want to do like a true, like, treatment control. Maybe one ad is just your logo. And then the other ad has voice and, you know, see how it works. Now that I know that your video talks about availability of data, well, maybe that's why the How to Power BI is so low, because Power BI sort of comes with, you know, a packaged Microsoft project. I don't know, product.
So, all right, I'm going to pull up my data set that I manually created to add additional context.
Okay.
And here, I'll show you. So it is kind of getting, I didn't do it with the specific ads, but I did it with the YouTube channel. So like, this is what everybody got was the managed placement report. What I did, and I created this myself by hand. Essentially, I just copied this entire row, pasted it into placement data, removed all the duplicates, then had focus and subscriber count, which I'm curious whether, okay, well, I mean,
we could create that in Tableau.
You what?
We could create that in Tableau.
Oh, what, like this specific, like just adding in a table?
Yeah, so we already, I see, this is subscribers.
So what I did was I literally just pull, like, you know how you can split the screen where it's like this half is Excel, this half is YouTube. I just literally typed in Jenny Tumay, and then she had 2.6 thousand subscribers. Software Tableau has 83,000, and just I manually typed that in because what I'm curious. Well, actually, can you speculate on my thinking behind? What do you think the subscriber count might be an indicator from my perspective as a business owner?
Potential views, more subscribers, more views.
Well, I wouldn't say, well, because we're still going to pay for each view individually.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking from my thought process as subscriber is that they have a more loyal following. They have a more actively engaged audience.
That's true. Yeah.
But what's interesting though is that, I mean, the growth and decay of YouTube channels. So just because like, I mean, well, because like, think about this, like, okay, Power BI is almost 300,000 people, but what if their heyday was back in 2009? And now people,
No one unsubscribed.
Right. I mean, people don't usually actively unsubscribe unless you're putting out really foul content that offends them.
I don't. No.
Right. I'll just casually lose interest.
Yeah.
But see, this is what's interesting is the focus.
Yeah.
And I think that, all right. So what I did was I pulled it into Tableau. Oh,
nice.
all right. Well, I was going to build up to this. There's going to be more of like a drum roll.
I like your sheet map. Yeah.
All right. But what I wanted to, okay, where, all right, here, it's just taking a second.
Okay. So you joined the two in Tableau.
Right. And what's weird is that it defaulted to a many-to-many relationship, and it took me, why does it do that?
Yeah, that's the many-to-many, like a full outer join is the default, which is odd because I don't think you'd ever use that in business. You just wouldn't need it. There's another step of defining your relationship.
Well, I named them the exact same thing. So it picked up on it. Placements.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it picked up on it.
And
so
then I had to manually do this. Yes. But what I think was interesting, and this isn't part of the dashboard, is the cost per click by focus.
Yeah.
See, now we're starting to get, this is like a much more three-dimensional view.
Very good. Yeah.
So it's inversed. So you typically think like, oh, more is better. No, it's not in this situation. Yeah. So data science, I mean, that makes sense. Like Kenji, love him to death, great content creator, but he is dealing with people who want to learn about Python and coding.
Yeah.
But analytics, it's, I guess, so this is interesting. This is how I'm interpreting this, is that analytics is too broad still. But see, what's interesting is Power BI even lower, even though it's not the right tool. And then what I realized is that we didn't have a single ad on a Tableau channel.
Oh, really?
Even though the case study is on Tableau.
Oh, interesting. I wonder why.
No. See, I don't really understand how like the Google Ads interface works. We were just like, here's a $50 a day budget. Spend this on these 5 channels. For whatever reason, it didn't choose.
It didn't choose Tableau.
It didn't choose Tableau or anyone who creates content on Tableau. But I mean, what we're doing, and see, how many years did you work with Visa?
Oh, I worked at Visa for 17 years. And when I started, we collect data on the telephone. People would call me, tell me what their numbers were. I'd type them in.
Those are some wild stories. But the reason I wanted to kind of bring that up is that it's like a massive ship to where this is like almost like a micro startup.
Yeah.
To where we're pivoting on a weekly basis. It's like, here's $50. We can spend $350 in a week, or $50 per day, $350 per week, and get feedback. I mean, we're seeing that this is a strong enough indicator. So with $350, it's like, all right, we shouldn't focus on data science. We shouldn't even focus on analytics. We should focus on content creators who are within this niche. And it's interesting because this data set's not out there. Like, it's not out in the wild. We had to like kind of Frankenstein it together.
Yeah, I think most data sets, even within business, you're pulling it from multiple sources. Like if you were looking at a conversion rate, you've got to look at your clicks, and then you have to bring in data from finance, like who paid. You know, so it's more common for data to be spread out all over the place and to bring it together in something, you know, either a SQL table, a spreadsheet, a Google sheet, and then analyze it from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I wonder why the Tableau number is so low. I wonder, you know, another thing missing from this data is the trend. You know, we could have a very long table with one column being the week, and then you would have it over and over and over. Because I would be curious to know during the Tableau conference when they are hyping their channels, would it pop up? And would it be worth it to keep Tableau as a category, knowing that it's going to be 0 for every week of the year, except for this one week when it really performs well? Yeah, these are the type of business questions you might have. Yeah.
What would you call that?
Seasonality.
Oh, well, okay. So seasonality, yes, but also like I was thinking about it for kind of from a broader analytics perspective of it's an external influence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like there's, for example, I think in the last lecture I was talking about how, like, what do you think the retail sales during Hurricane Item were in Louisiana?
Down.
Yeah, like they don't have power, so they're not making any sales. So like, but that's not necessarily an indication that, you know, August is a bad time of the month for them. It's like, no, there's this third factor that came in and just leveled everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it could also, you know, someone in the chat, Haley, mentioned that, you know, Tableau might be more competitive. There might be
True.
more people trying to, you know, get in there on that user base.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I mean, let's see. We could look at it. So focus, you look at focus by overall impressions, maybe. So yeah, look, there's 0. So maybe it was, yeah, I think Haley might be onto something there that, yeah, I mean, isn't that wild? And what's interesting is that it's like the complete worst case scenario. I mean, this is $350. It's not like I'm not going to go, you know, have to sell my house after this, but
Right.
I mean, like, and that's part of the reason why we're pivoting so fast is just to quickly get a feel and start thinking about, you know, how are our ads converting? Where's the money going? What is this telling us?
Yeah. And also, like in this space, there's a lot of talk about data-driven decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what does that mean? Well, that means that decision makers should be looking at this and not saying to themselves, well, you know, I had a good time at the Tableau conference. They threw a great party. So I'm going to, you know, do more business with them. You need this data to show that, well, I know your impression as someone who's met people is that you want to work more in this space, but what does the data show, right? Like if you're working for a company that launches a product based on how much someone likes the product versus numbers like this, I think that's a good illustration of that concept in that space.
Well, and also too, something I'm trying to kind of like just hammer home to my students is that this is all based on assumption. Like a lot, the amount of assumptions that I have to make, because I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say, all right, this is the exact lay of the land. I have to make a judgment call. And there's a certain amount of risk that, what's funny, because this is the first time like I've really been in the ad buying position, and I'm sweating it a whole lot more than I ever have before. Like advising a business to like go spend ads.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm a little worried because like if it goes terrible, they're not going to keep me on as a consultant, but I'm not actively losing money like they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of assumptions and kind of just like you have to build a logic around it. And it's a combination of like your intuition and then what the data tells you. But
yeah, sometimes the data confirms intuition.
Sometimes.
You know, sometimes.
And yeah, that's great. But I think that also too, there's like things that the data can't tell you. So like if you have an executive who's worked for 30 years in an industry, yes, the industry is probably changing and evolving, but there are probably some underlying fundamentals that have been there, you know, through bull markets, through downtimes, through like, you know, new, I don't know, innovations, like the new hot thing. And then those are fads, but it's like, this has been a constant thread in this space.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually this is a YouTube channel question. So someone asked, and we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. So what would you advise someone who is in an organization that isn't using data to drive their decisions? Like, do you have any thoughts on like, how do you get them to change, or should you just change your role and go somewhere else?
That's a really good question. Like, yeah, you're a data analyst working for a company. You've been told, hey, we are going to make decisions based on this data, so we need you. But what you observe over time is that maybe they're not making decisions on that data.
Or their data's wrong.
Or the data's wrong, yeah. I mean, you have to think about that and do what's best for you. Yeah, I would, you know, you can always, if it's a great company, sit around and wait for management to change. Sometimes that happens. But you can also just keep doing your best work. And sometimes you have to be your own salesperson. You might discover something in the data that no one else knows. So you might have to speak to people about it. I think that data tells its own story.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that I think everyone on this call, you're probably better at consuming numeric information than the average, business person. You're the expert. Try to share it. You've uncovered this. You think it's important. But if you don't get anywhere, then yeah, I think you have to leave.
Well, because there's a certain tipping point, I would say, that it hinders your trajectory as an analyst.
Yes.
And that is actively your responsibility to realize that, hey, my boundaries, and I'm not being listened to, and I'm setting boundaries that are being violated, and I need to just go somewhere else.
Because you need good feedback on your work, right? If the senior managers are saying, oh, hey, I love this, now add this, now add that, that's it. Tells you they're an active consumer of your product and that they want more. So you're going to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn how to do these things they're asking. If no one asks you to make changes, then that's kind of a sign that maybe your work is not being consumed.
It's just like something that a higher up said, hey, we should do, and the middle manager is just like putting it off in the corner and not even paying attention to it. It's like a check thing.
I do have to say, like, I've spent most of my career in banking, 90% of my career in banking. Banking, finance is full of people who make decisions based on dollars. And that it's a very, it's a good place to be an analyst because you're going to have a very receptive audience.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump back over to this. And I want to show everybody my thought process in this. So the UI is pretty interesting here. So, all right, so this is the most important thing for me. I want to know, and that's really reaffirming to me, just like kind of in a broader context, that our first preliminary ads were around $10. We've got that down to 1/10 of that.
Nice.
And we did that through, I think, 2 iterations. So for total clicks, does that math check out? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Interesting. All right, so let's figure out, because what did I do for? But I mean, the math doesn't check out, but it's still closer to that $1 point. Let me figure this out. All right, we can cover. Oh, it's coming up over on this screen. Drag this over. Oh, my clicker. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what that looks right?
Mm-hmm.
So sum of clicks divided by sum of costs.
Are you able to bring all 3 of those numbers into one sheet? Because I know for your big numbers, you've got 1 number per sheet on your screen.
What do you mean?
So go back to your cost per click dashboard.
Okay.
Now from there, go straight to the worksheet from there by clicking on that. Yeah, there you go. And then I would duplicate that sheet and just call it QA or something,
Also,
or not even name it.
Yeah, as a side note, this is how I create cards.
Yeah.
Like the little blue font, and then this is slightly bigger.
To modify your header, absolutely. So now go ahead and add the other 2 metrics here.
The clicks, I can just double click here. And
cost per click.
Cost, right?
And cost, yeah. This could be a, we would expect so you have 350 and your total cost 364, but your cost per click is, I would look at, so up at the top, you have a filter for an action, but remove that.
Okay. I need to get a new mouse pad. I'm struggling here.
And don't remove the measure name or you get everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the cost and the number of clicks cost per click came from your data.
Cost per click.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just looked at that, right? That's this one, right?
Yeah. And cost was in your data set.
Yeah. It's that
Okay.
one. Should we just try creating another calculated column maybe? Or just try it again?
Yeah, I would try it again.
So create calculated field. I'll just call this CPC. So what I did, or did I just get it backwards? Did I just do the?
Yeah, I wonder if you just got it backwards. So you can just X out of this, go to the cost per click, reverse the two numbers, and see. Because we're expecting a number a little less than 350. And what we have is a number that's a little more than 350.
Divided by sum of clicks.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Just a dumb error, just a dumb calculation error. But these matter. These totally matter.
This is something that.
Because if you were the executive I were presenting to and the number one most important KPI is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's something what we just demonstrated is very common. Very common. That happens in business a lot. Yeah.
So just make sure that you've got your kindergarten math correct. So this is, and these are the most important things that I'm caring about.
Yeah.
What I liked about this scatter chart is that I can quickly see that, all right, the retail course for Alex the Analyst is doing very bad.
Yeah.
So we spent $100 and only had 70 clicks. So we should probably just nip that in the bud, no longer go down that advertising route.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the How to Power BI retail course too. I mean, it's what, $2 per click, which is relatively speaking pretty bad. But also what I liked about the UI is that I kept it all consistent. So marketing is blue, retail is orange. So what I can do is click on here, quickly see that, all right, that's 83 cents, 126. That's pretty solid right there. And I can click on, well, how'd the marketing do? Oh, interesting. So the marketing's not doing as well, even though, you would expect that the more you scale up your ads, the higher the cost per click. At a certain point, you're going to hit a point of diminishing returns. So now what we've done is we've looked at the two different ad groups for Luke, or we could just click on Luke in general and see that, all right, on average, 84 cents. So that checks out. And then we can also select Alex the Analyst and Luke. So now we can start to see the relationships here. Oh, interesting. So it looks like with Kenji is there? Where did that go? Oh, it's up here. Gotcha. So that's kind of the UI that I was looking for. So this is helping me decide. All right, it looks like we should double down on Luke. We should kill the retail. Because look at that. I mean, $1.46 versus the average of 104. So that's pretty significant. Oh, you're muted.
Could you also select on the scatter plot? You could say, I want to see what are my two outliers.
So how would I do that? Just shift? Oh, I'd have to turn this on.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So yeah.
Yeah, so now when you did that, yeah, you got different views.
Weird though. So that's wrong. That broke. That should be much higher, right?
Is it so click on the down arrow of the cost versus click and make sure it's being applied to all of the all of the sheets on the dashboard.
What do I click there?
Yeah, let's see.
Do I just click use filter or?
Yeah, click use as filter and then go over to the worksheet.
So turn this filter on.
And then click over the expand to go to the cost versus clicks worksheet.
Okay.
And you got two action filters.
Mm-hmm.
You can click the down arrow on any one of those. Apply to worksheets.
Okay.
And then you can
select all that's on the dashboard.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so
That's how you do.
we're going down some wild rabbit holes here.
I hope this helps anyone on the call that you can incorporate this into your.
No, well, I think this is cool
Yeah.
because it's just you're getting to see kind of the thought process unpacked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty neat. Oh, cool. Do you have any? So we were about an hour and 5 minutes into the lecture. Do you have any kind of closing advice or thoughts for the students?
Sure. I'll make it quick. So one of the things that we just saw was an example of like formula auditing. We looked at the big numbers. We did a math in our head. We decided we needed to look at that formula. So when that happens, it's usually the formula, which we covered, filters. The filters are different on different worksheets. What's the other thing? Yeah, it's filters. It's usually filters or number formats, rounding. If two numbers don't appear to add up, it could be because there's more decimals. So yeah, I think those are 3 good tools to QA your own work. Check the formula, check the filters, check your decimals.
Right, and don't have your main KPI wrong when you're presenting. It's just a good kind of rule of thumb.
Process, right? We figured that out before the meeting. So.
Yeah, that's true. I was about to say I kind of jumped on this like right before this call, just because I wanted to be able to. Well, actually, to be completely transparent, I had the idea of I can add in a second data source and then show, because what I want. We talked about data modeling in Power BI last week, and I wanted people to see that Tableau has the same capability. Although I would be interested in talking to you a little bit about, I've never used Tableau Prep, but I know that it's much more robust than what's natively built into Tableau, correct?
Yes. So Tableau Prep, it's almost like it's very common to SAS, where you can, through graphic use of icons, create a data flow. So you could say, bring in this report filtered on these dates and that report filtered on those dates, create a calculation, and now create another table just with my calculation. So you can go through like multi-step data prep processes. Or sometimes often what happens is that the ETL pipeline, if you guys are familiar with that term.
So ETL is extract, transform, load. It's the process of taking dirty data and turning it into something that you can use for analysis.
Yeah. And so it helps with that process. Often that process is done over in SQL or in Excel and then brought into your analysis. But yeah, data prep is well worth checking out.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. We're going to jump into, we're going to close out the lecture with the email marketing, but I don't want to take any more of your time because this isn't related to Tableau.
That's cool. Thank you.
Heather, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much. It's been very awesome. I enjoyed meeting everyone. Feel free to ask some questions on Discord. Connect on LinkedIn. Sounds good. All right. Take care.
I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay. I need a break right fast. So we're going to cut to a commercial right fast, and I'm going to take a few minutes of a breather. Also, the students, you guys get a break too. In this case study course, you're going to learn 3 things. Number 1, you're going to improve your business acumen. This means that you're going to learn about how business works. Then we're going to move into the second point, which is analytics hard skills. So once we understand how the business works, we're then going to use some business intelligence tools, specifically Tableau, to solve the business problem and uncover insights. And then the third point, which is very, very important, are the soft skills. And the whole last chapter is dedicated to how you can more effectively explain your findings and also talk about past projects in an interview setting. To be a little bit more specific, you're going to be calculating the return on investment of 2 different marketing channels. So we're going to be looking at our Amazon and our Facebook ad spend. And there are 3 different data sources. So our first data source is our cost data source. And this is where we can see all of the ad spend, and it's in one data source. Then there is a sales data source for Facebook and a sales data source for Amazon. The challenge is that we're going to have to combine all 3 of these data sources together and then isolate our spending data and associate it with the relevant sales data source. By the end of the project, you're going to figure out which of these has the highest return on investment. But you're also going to have a challenge where you're going to visualize the data and see if there are any insightful trends that you could communicate to our end client. So if you're up for a challenge, then sign up and let's get started. Awesome. So now let's head over to MailChimp. So I don't know if we actually went into the back end of the interface, but let me just give you a quick rundown of what we're looking at here. So you can see that we've got just under 1,000 contacts in our email lists. Of those, 118 are agreeing to get regular email updates from us. And you can see that we have a few different emails that go out on a weekly basis. So this is short for Greensboro College Livestream. I sent this out this morning. So it's not huge numbers. So 9 people clicked on it, but 77 people are at least aware of it. And these are actually, I don't want to give it away. I want to have one of you guys, one of the students come in and talk about this. Aiden, you still there? You want to come talk?
Sure.
All right, cool. So Aiden, how's it going, man? So number one thing, what did you think of Heather?
I liked her a lot. She definitely helped. Tableau wasn't too tricky. It was a lot like Power BI and Excel, and like the way that it was like it functions. But it was nice to hear like insight on different methods and different ways of breaking down information.
Also, is that a Sublime poster in behind you?
Yes, that is the Sublime poster behind.
How do we? I grew up on Sublime. How do we have the same musical taste? What's
go.
funny to you? That's like retro. That was like me growing up.
Yeah. No, I remember finding it when I was a little younger, for sure.
Wow. Okay. All right. So let's jump over to MailChimp. All right. And do you remember? Actually, were you the one who talked about with Jim Stern, the marketing analytics expert, like pitching this actual project?
Yes, that was me.
Okay. So let's hear that pitch one more time. Now that's been like a week or two.
You know that I've forgotten most of it.
Right. Let's see. Well, let's see how much is retained in your mind. So I guess the question is, what is email marketing?
So the email marketing was the subscriber base that you had. We were sending out different emails to advertise the new marketing analytics course. It was retail analytics, I believe. And we were using the 2 KPIs, which were opening the email and clicking on the link. And we were observing the data that was formed off of that.
Awesome. So wait, what are the 2 KPIs?
It was opening the email itself and then clicking on the link for the course in the email, correct?
Right. So the rate of open and clicks. Gotcha. Right. And then what did you guys do? So there were 2 teams involved, and what was the kind of analytical concept of like thought process behind that?
To analyze the data, like what were we trying to find by analyzing the data?
Well, okay, I'll give you this one. You guys conducted an A/B test. So it was
right. Okay.
You break into 2 teams and you test 2 different concepts and run them at the same time. You'll very quickly, within, I don't know, like I think this ran for an hour and it got enough clicks that it was like, all right, this one is performing better than the other. So what we can do is actually pull up this report and we can talk about who won and why. So do you feel like, do you understand what like the reasoning behind an A/B split test? Or have you already heard about this concept?
Yeah, no, it was, I remember freshman year when I took statistics, it was stuff similar to this, where it was It's AB it's from the same I'm gonna get my terms mixed up a little bit, but the same general population. It's just two groups from that population, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, look who is Tom Ryan. Haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for being on the live stream. Ooh, lost my mouse there. Okay, so these are the two different tests. So we have introducing the new sales analytics course, and then the other test is build a killer analytics portfolio. So do you remember what these? Wow, I was going to ask you what are these, and then I realized it says it right here.
Mhm.
So these are the subject lines. But okay, what was the underlying thinking of the distinction between the two?
So the main one was the title, and then it was the subject line, and then the text that we put in, the emails. I think we used the same video link and most of
Right.
the same similar imagery at least.
Well, what I found out on my, so we had planned to make two complete different subject lines and bodies of the emails, but what I found out is that I can only test either the subject line or the body of the email in
Gotcha.
Mailchimp's
Okay.
infrastructure. So we're a little bit hobbled on that standpoint, but no. So okay, there are two different subject lines: subject line A, subject line B. What was the different angle? So what was the difference between the two? Do you remember?
So I know with subject line A, we were using it as this was a new course that we were offering, or that you were offering, and we were advertising that it was now available and ready to use. And then the other one was more of improving on your current uh, analytics portfolio. So just like steps to improve what you've already done.
Right. Also, too, this one is kind of formal. This
Mhm.
one, build a killer analytics portfolio, is a little bit more casual. So that was kind of like the different angle on it. Also, too, this one explicitly um, says course.
Mhm.
This one kind of hints at the course because what is the end thing you get out of the course is a portfolio piece. So it's
Right.
not, and this is interesting. So it's sent to 193 people in the test. So I mean that's a relatively decent. I mean, what do they say in stats class? It's like 35 is statistically significant. This is way bigger than that.
Yeah.
So, but you can see off of those nearly 400 emails total, 200 per campaign, that this one had quite a bit higher. So what this tells me is that they're less interested in portfolios. They're interested in courses and specifically sales courses. And then, yeah, okay. So will you interpret this a little bit for me? So like what the open rate and the click-through rate?
Yeah, well, the open rate is the rate of people that open the email that we sent it to, and then your click rate was the amount that actually clicked on the link.
So yeah, this is interesting to me because it's people are not only more intrigued by it, but then they're even more likely to click on the exact same body of text if we prime them with, hey, there's a course, which is weird. It's weird how that psychological trigger. I mean, that's a significant difference in a click-through rate. I mean, that's what
Mm-hmm.
I mean. That's 33% from the perspective of this one. That's 33% higher for the click-through rate. But talk to me a little bit about the unsubscriber rate, though. What do you think is going on there?
So, I mean,
We talked
that's a
about
little.
this briefly in class.
We did, and I remember I brought up that it might have been because it was one unsubscriber at the time that we looked at it. So now that it's over, what is it?
It's 2.
Yeah, so it's over 1%. So would you deem that significant? Do you think?
So what this is telling, the way that I'm interpreting this as the business owner, is that this is more controversial from the perspective of the end user because, and I'm still trying to wrestle with this, like how I feel about it. I would say 98% of the people who watch the YouTube channel and consume content from me, it's just a one-way relationship. I create content and they take, to where now I'm starting to ask for some reciprocal value being like, here's okay, still 95% of it's free. Here's the 5% that's paywalled. What's weird is that these people are essentially, what they're telling me with their unsub here is that I have zero interest in making this a reciprocal relationship. So I'm actually fine with them dropping off my email list, because I mean it's not the target demographic that I want to work with. So if they're really turned off by the fact that I sell courses, then that's fine. It's not a big deal. In fact, that makes my email list that much more valuable, because it's kind of like it's pruned a little bit. But yeah, let's actually view the report here, so we can actually take a look a little bit deeper. So let's see what's going on. So it was opened 52 times, clicked 9 times, and unsubscribed from twice. Yeah, this is, and then we can see it over time. So typically people open it. That's wild. They typically open it within an hour or so. So Aiden, what do you think about that? What's the implication there? If the majority of people
an hour, then there's a solid chance that a lot of them have some sort of push notification enabled.
But if the majority of people open it within the hour, what is important to us as the organization? So let's say that within an hour, 90% of the people who are going to open it. What if we send it at 4 a.m.?
Right. Well, you're not going to get very much of an interaction. You want to do it around the highest traffic times, wouldn't you?
Right. Which is, I mean, I can actually pull up my YouTube channel, and we can look at the audience pane. Which, have I shown you guys the back end of the YouTube channel yet?
You might have at the very, very beginning of the course, but we didn't go into depth on any of it. It was just more like an introduction.
So weird seeing ourselves. Well, what if we click on it? Would it just be like a time warp?
That's how the black hole starts.
Yeah. A rift in the reality. Okay. So I can pull up the YouTube Content Creator Studio, and I think it's running a little bit slow because I'm live streaming. So forgive me for that, but we can come over here to the analytics pane. If it'll load, and then I can click on the audience tab. And there's actually visualizations that are kind of preset and pre-made. Oh, not revenue. Revenue pane would make me sad. They slashed YouTube revenue, so I just have stopped advertising. But so here is when the viewers are coming. Okay. So what would you say? What is an ideal time to send an email?
Looks like the ideal time is right around noon.
Right. And let's see, when did we send this? We sent it at 11 a.m. Most of the
So
people
that would almost even be better than noon. Right,
because there might be some people that are like there at like 11:45.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were. I was actually somewhat methodical and thoughtful about when I sent out that email, because I wanted to make sure that we got enough clicks for people for you guys to get the A/B test results.
Right.
And then this is interesting. So it actually worked. So 14 people clicked on the retail case study course. So that was a good. And then surprisingly, 5 people clicked on the marketing analytics case study course. So what this tells me is that people were intrigued by the subject line, the body of the text, but then some people are just more interested. Maybe they're just marketing analysts. And they're like, yeah, a retail case study course could be interesting, but this one's right up my alley. So it'd be really cool if we could segment our audience a little bit more, but we have not. I mean, honestly, to be completely frank, I'm just tapped bandwidth wise. Like, I'm running the podcast, teaching the class, running consulting engagements. I mean, it's a whole lot. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I don't want that to sound like I'm complaining, because I'm having a ball right now.
Yeah, stay busy.
Yeah, not too bad. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our live stream. We're ending it 3 minutes early, but Aiden, thanks so much for coming on. This has been fantastic.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm gonna play one last commercial. Where is that? No, I think I already played that one, right? All right. I'll just play the intro as the outro, and I will see you guys in person on Thursday. Also, everybody in live chat, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you.